Hello. So, like it or not, at the moment, really the whole world is a lot more aware of our lungs and breathing because we're aware that the COVID virus has quite a big impact for many people on their lungs. Now, I'm one of those people who's had some lung problems before this, and I'm on day 7 of self isolation from having a cough. Now, it could just be a summer cold, as a lot of people have said to me. I know that. But whatever I've had has had quite an effect on my lungs as well. And it's not the worst I've been. And I've had quite a lot of episodes with my lungs in the past and have been in hospital before because of reactions that I've had that have affected my lungs quite badly. So I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I would like to try and help you with your lungs and taking care of your lungs. So with that in mind, and also, when we talk about our lungs, it relates to so many things. And so I want to incorporate a little bit of that practice in here as well, okay? So the first thing I'm going to start with is to remind you all to breathe, which sounds so silly, but it is, in fact, the cornerstone of pretty much every meditation or mindfulness practice. And to be aware, and it's quite a sensitive thing to say right now, that all we have to do is to keep breathing. So even if you have no symptoms, or even if you've had this and got over it, there are times when our stress and anxiety can really impact on our lungs. So even if you have perfect lungs and no problems, we can hurt our lungs by feeling so anxious and stressed that we stop breathing and we hold our breath. And it's one of the things that we do as animals. Our animal instinct is to freeze. And that's a lot of what we do. So it's very important that we remember to breathe in and breathe out. And out. And there are so many different styles and practices and things like that for helping with our breathing. But the most important thing, the very, very most basic thing, is just to bring our attention to the breath and to remember, to focus on whether we're actually holding our breath or not. And that's the most important thing. As soon as you put your attention on your breath, you will automatically start to breathe deeper. There are, obviously, if somebody's feeling very panicked, we can have problems. We can, hyperventilate, and you might need to get a paper bag. But again, in that case, just try to breathe and to kind of, this is one that's a bit harder because I haven't done this quite so many times. I hold my breath more than I hyperventilate. And I'm sure there's a whole load of videos of people who will explain how this works and what to do better. But in my experience, it's really just about. And one of the things you can do is breathe out. So one of the things that happens very often when we feel stressed or anxious is we feel we can't breathe in. And the most important thing in that moment is to just exhale. If you exhale, you will automatically inhale, and the inhalation will be easier. And it's very funny because one of the practices, sorry, I have to put my cup of tea down. There's a couple of practices, and one is that monks and meditation teachers will explain is that one of the most beautiful things about breathing is that this is the basic need of the human body. So we worry about food, we worry about water, we worry about medicine, we worry about all these kind of things. But for most of us, our most basic need is to breathe in and breathe out. And the average is about 18 times a minute we breathe in and we breathe out. And like so many things, when we stress and when we try to hold on to the breath, we create a problem. So it's in and out. In and out. It's very natural, it's very beautiful, and we can see how we are taken care of 18 times a minute by the world. We are delivered and we let go. Excuse me. And it's very useful to focus on that when we're feeling stressed about a lack, about scarcity, when our mind gets involved and tries to tell us we need to be stockpiling, or we need to be worrying about money, or where we're going to be in 3 months from now or a year from now. And a lot of the actions and problems we're seeing at the moment are to do with people feeling panicking about the future. So just in this present moment, just trust and feel the fact that we're actually breathing 18 times a minute, and the breath is coming. So that beautiful relationship with our lungs and the air around us and the universe, and breathing in, breathing out, and breathing out. Okay? And it's really about how supported that we are, even though we're not always aware of that support. The support is always coming. And it reminds me, actually, when I was in Bhutan, they have a very strict policy there of not cutting down the forests and the trees, which is so wonderful. And I was talking to a chap on a walk one day, and I said, I think it's so important that they were doing this to protect the environment and to protect the air quality. And the chap said to me, he said, they are our lungs. The forests are our lungs. And so I know there's an awful lot at the moment. So many people have an agenda and I don't want to try and catch your attention for that agenda. But one of the very important things we can do for our lungs, and I think so many people are doing it when they can, is to get out into nature and to get close to trees and to breathe in that wonderful oxygen from the trees. And likewise, I love to get near to the sea and to breathe in. But I know for a lot of people that's not an option right now. So this is a mixed bag of a video, because some of this stuff will be useful and some of it might feel a bit painful. Because some of this advice you can listen to and use, and some of it might feel that it's touching a nerve. And it is a difficult one to do, because right now we're so aware of our need to breathe and the importance of our lungs. So I want to share with you all the things that I've done to take care of my lungs in difficult times, because some of them are very basic, very obvious, and I think they will really help a lot of people. Okay. So we've gone through the basic breathing exercise. There are hundreds of breathing exercises you can do. Apart from that, a really good one is think about your posture and how you're sitting. And it sounds really basic, but particularly if you lie down, sometimes that means you can't necessarily breathe particularly well, especially if you feel like you've got, congestion on your lungs. So actually, before I say that, I would say if you feel that you're getting some symptoms or you're feeling problems with your lungs, please double check what medical advice is being offered and what you should do in case of an emergency, because it is important that you know at what point you should reach out for help. For example, call 999 in the UK. I don't know, because it's changing every day. So I would ask you to please, if you start to feel you're getting rapidly worsening symptoms, do check what the current medical advice is and where things stand in terms of calling on medical services and paramedics and people like that. But in the meantime, if you're not there yet, you can prop yourself up in bed with pillows if you're trying to sleep and rest, and that can often help to ease your breathing and help the congestion from moving from off your lungs. So that's quite an important one. I will say a really important one as well is sometimes not to eat too late at night. I know it sounds weird, but that can affect because of the stomach and acid and things like that. It can actually affect you. So if you're, I know some people tend to eat late at night, but if you're finding it's difficult, try and eat earlier in the day. I know it's weird. It's a lot of little things that can sometimes help, and sometimes. For me, I found that doing these things, if I have a bad day, I can kind of go, well, it's because I ate too late last night, or I didn't prop myself up in bed with the pillows, and that's why it's not so good today. So there's that. Okay, and really, really, really an important one for me, and probably for a lot of other people, is to be very, very aware of any chemicals And I include natural products in there that you're using in the house. Okay, even your perfume, even if you are using, say, a candle, if you're burning a candle and you're doing some meditation. I have put myself in hospital by mixing essential oils together, and they were essential oils that shouldn't have been mixed. Okay, so whether something's natural or all new, or it's, we can know it's full of chemicals, be very aware of any reactions you might be having to those chemicals. I know the really bad one for me is air fresheners, and Febreze is really bad for me. And also paint. It's sort of weird. But for example, you might be doing something in your house, if you've got a bit of time on your hands, you think, oh, okay, I'm going to go and do a little bit DIY or something like that. And those I think I forget what they're called, the organic chemicals that get released by certain things have a really bad effect. Basically, if you see a bottle and on the back it says bad for aquatic organisms, it's those things. And it can be actually from quite sort of natural things. I find if I get near an organic farm, I don't feel so good. And of course, it's like food, we all react to different things. So just be aware if you feel that something is not right, to investigate in your home and double check. So it could be, a lot of the time it's those diffusers, those kind of like the reeds you get and everyone gives you for Christmas, and I can't have those in the house because they are full of all kinds of chemicals. And it's not like food, it's sort of full of stuff. You're like, well, what is that? I don't know. And candles and things like that, and cleaning products. And I think the thing is you experiment, because I find sometimes bleach is fine, and sometimes it really irritates my lungs. So if you are affected, even if it's a summer cold, if you're affected, then something that normally wouldn't bother you can actually make you feel a lot worse. So be very aware, and also if somebody says, oh no, you're feeling stressed, let me light a candle, and you can make it a lot worse. So we have to be very, very mindful of what we're using. And I'll be honest with you, I often react when I go into hospitals or clinics or places like that because of the very strong cleaning products and other things that they use, and because there's less fresh air. So what we usually say is, in most cases, the air outside is less toxic than the air inside. So one of the best things you can do, of course, is to open your windows and to get outside and to get fresh air and try and breathe in some fresh air. And I know, I'm sorry for that people who can't do that, and I feel bad. And just do what I do on a plane, which is breathe in and breathe out. And if you're finding things very, very difficult, I would look to see if you can get any more sort of medical advice about things that you can do to help yourself. So anyway, just a couple more things about the lungs and what you can do to help. A shower is fantastic for helping you to breathe. And even if you feel very unwell and you can't actually get in the shower, you can go and sit in the bathroom and run hot water and get that steam going. And that can be very, very helpful to a lot of people. Some people, I think this is for asthma, use cold air, like so out of the freezer, they go and breathe in the freezer. I don't think that really helps me. So again, try looking at what actually helps you. Paracetamol, which we're revising, I don't know what you call it in other countries, but in England we call it paracetamol. We've been using to, advising people to take that if they've got symptoms of the virus. I've been using that this week and I found that very helpful. And another thing which might be helpful, but double check before you take it with the paracetamol or any other medication, is an antihistamine. And that's been recommended to me by a pharmacist. So you might want to check this with a pharmacist first. When I had strong reactions to things in my lungs. And it's a bit, I know it's kind of like when you have a skin disorder or you have like eczema or something like that, you might have one underlying cause and then you might have other things that aggravate it. So it's worth looking at and seeing if it's something you can check with somebody, if it's safe to try an antihistamine, because it can reduce your allergic reaction. So for example, even if you have a reaction to various seeds and things like that. So again, looking at it almost like a sort of a hay fever type thing. But that also will work in the same way if you're having a reaction to other chemicals around at the time. So those are the most important things that I've found have been useful. Also hot drinks. Yeah, keep going with it. If you go with very, very hot drinks, that because the heat then gets to your chest, and that can really help. And the other thing I would recommend is you can even get a hot water bottle. And you can get a hot water bottle and put it on your chest, and that can sometimes help soothe your lungs. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, basically, it's really about relaxing, trying to make sure you get some clean air to your lungs, as much clean air as possible. And if necessary, taking things like paracetamol and antihistamine. So it's a lot to digest in this. I hope it helps. I really do. I hope it helps. And the funny thing is, I would say this, is that in my reading, when I read a lot from very wise people, very, very wise people, it's amazing how many of those very, very wise people have lung problems. So anyway, so I don't know why some of us react more strongly. I don't know why some of us have more lung problems than others. And but you're in good company. You know, we're all in good company with this. And I really, really wish you well, and I hope that you feel better, because I feel personally, having been in this situation, I feel for everybody who's having problems breathing at the moment. So my love goes out to every single person, no matter why you're having any difficulties breathing, and I wish you all the very, very best in the world. Okay, lots of love. Bye.